Hello everybody. I wanted to make a video, and this is actually my second attempt at making this because I don't feel like I really got the message through in the first version, about sort of what we've seen from time to time within the manosphere, within the men's community, when someone from the community that either used to make content themselves or they participated in a significant way with the dialogue and conversations in the community passes away. And what I basically want to discuss is what is and what is not doxing someone after they pass away, and sort of how the nature of doxing someone changes, if it does, when they are no longer not even making content but are actually no longer with us on this earth. Because I've noticed a variety of different sort of situations play out over the years when unfortunately someone has passed away, and I'm going to give some examples here of what I'm talking about. And one thing I do want to mention clearly is this is a video where I'm asking questions more than answering anything, because I really don't know what is the best way of examining this or the best way of proceeding. And so I want to get feedback on this video for sure in terms of what you guys think. One example of someone that unfortunately passed away last year was Vention. Now, in Vention's case, he put a lot of his information out there, right? I miss the guy, but I really do admire the way that he went out in terms of the priority that he gave to the men's community, realizing that he had put a lot of time and effort in making content and having dialogue with friends that he has on YouTube. He really put it all out there when he was in the process of dying, right? But the other part of that is he knew, especially toward the end, that his time was limited. He knew what the overall prognosis was for someone that had colon cancer and liver cancer. He realized that he really only was probably on average going to live for a couple years, and he managed to live for around 3, I think, or close to that, from his cancer diagnosis. And this is for the people that know who Vention was. I imagine a lot of people that watch my channel do. But he was a MGTOW content creator who sadly got cancer and passed away, like I mentioned, last September in his 50s. But he put a lot of stuff out there, and so there really wasn't any sort of controversy about doxing and stuff like that. On his final video that somebody else posted, they actually posted his name and everything, with his consent, I presume. And so there really wasn't much of a problem there. But then you have other content creators like Paul Proteus, who passed away and had passed away a long time before anybody figured out what had happened. And evidently, it seems like, at least, and a lot of this just has to be conjecture, right? A lot of this is just sort of making our best educated guess at what happened. But evidently he passed away in his sleep, and I think he was probably also in his late 40s or early 50s, I'm not sure. And no one in the community knew for quite some time. And somebody eventually put that information out there, and I don't know really who it was, but you had sort of a more almost controversial result of that in terms of doxing, because some people were putting out his real name, and others and I'm not going to mention who this was in particular because I don't want to have any sort of issues with this content creator. He's actually one of my favorite content creators these days. Said that basically don't be a jerk and put out Paul Proteus's real full name. But then throughout the whole video he used his real first name, which I thought to be very close to making no sense whatsoever, right? It's like if you're going to put out his first name, and then I've noticed you could Google his first name along with Paul Proteus, and you're going to get his full name and his obituary and everything anyway. So what really are you accomplishing by not sharing the full name if you're going to put the first name out there? And that's the kind of thing that I want to go into, or the kind of questions I'm asking in this video is, what is the appropriate response? There have been others that have passed away over the past few years or so, some more recently than others. Some of you guys may remember the channel Timothy Bladez. Timothy Bladez was making content from about 2016 to 2018, I want to say. And he made short videos and he showed his face and everything. He was a former Marine. And he and I actually chatted, sent PMs to each other a few times during that period, and I hadn't heard from him for a long time, and I found out that he had committed suicide. And it was clear toward the summer of 2018 that he was really having some mental problems. And before, 2018, he seemed like he was making good content. He had his own style and his own delivery, but he really basically lost the battle. And I'm going to include a link on this video where someone else is putting out what happened with Timothy Bladez. And that's kind of what happened. Like, I found out that he had committed suicide, but I really didn't know how to put the information out there, because if I just said, hey, this guy killed himself, well, other people are going to look at that and say, yeah, okay, Dan, without backing that up and showing information, you really shouldn't even say that someone has committed suicide, right? Some people may take my word for it, but others wouldn't. And so I just kind of decided not to share that information for the most part. The one person that I did share that information with, because they were both heavy diesel mechanics, was Vention. Ironically enough, back around 2018 when I found out that that happened, might have been the beginning of 2019 when I found that out, Vention was the one that I told, but I just really didn't know what to do. And that's the whole point that I'm trying to kind of get to with this video. There have been other content creators that have passed away more recently. When I first started discovering content that you could call red pill content, one of the channels that I found was In Feminism. And it may surprise people to talk about a woman whose videos that I actually watched, although I'm pretty sure that I've mentioned watching Karen Straughn's videos on here before. But I watched some of Cassie's videos. Cassie was the half Asian girl that ran the channel In Feminism. And she just disappeared one day, and no one ever figured out what happened. Like, her channel was just taken down. And I guess there was some negative stuff going on. But I found out recently that she had passed away. Not at that time, but later last year, she passed away. So even though, again, this is a different sort of type of channel, back when I was really sort of being introduced to the red pill and men's content, I was still sad to learn that. She wasn't even 30 years old yet. She got in an accident with her bicycle in a semi-truck, and she died. But yet, I'm pretty sure most of the community of people that watched her videos, more of the MRA type of stuff, I'm pretty sure they have no idea what happened to her. And so the whole reason why I'm motivated to mention all of these examples, on one hand, is to ask the question, what is a post-mortem dox, right? What is it that actually crosses the line when someone's passed away? It seems like things change and are quite a bit different from doxing someone when they're still alive, right? It's like they're gone now. You can't really endanger them anymore, but then you have their families to be concerned about. You have any sort of crazy person on the internet that might still take that information and still somehow hurt the families or loved ones of those people. And it is possible, definitely, that that could happen. It may be less likely than going after that person themselves when they're alive, but it still, in my view, could clearly work out that way if you put too much information out there. But then what is too much? Is sharing their full name too much? Right? There'd be no reason to share their address or personal information of that nature. But what do we actually do? What is the right thing to do when we find that someone in the community has passed away? And just on more of a personal level, the other reason for me making this video, besides asking these questions, is to say, the easy way for me is to just mind my own business, right? You could easily say, Dan, you just need to mind your own business. Stop trying to figure out what happened to these people that used to make content because they're doing their own thing or it's none of your concern. Well, the problem, though, is I don't think that's the right course of action either, because I think we have genuine friendships with people that we meet within this community, right? There are people that I know on YouTube that I'm friends with more so, and I think have more of a connection with than people in my real life that are supposedly my friends or have been in the past my friends that really I had very little in common with, or they're pretty much just not with the program, especially on what we would call red pill type of issues, right? They don't necessarily think for themselves. I've talked about that on here too as well in different videos, where I have certain family members or friends that it's just like they're totally ignorant of what's going on in the world today between men and women, from a political standpoint, just in terms of what's going on around them. Some of them are pretty good people, but they have no clue what's going on, whether it's because they've invested in a traditional conservative boomer type of lifestyle, or whether it's because they think with their dicks too much and they, want to worship women because they can't get beyond that sort of biological issue, right? They can't control their biology well enough, and they think with their penises instead of actually being a true friend, they'll dump you or they'll sort of cast you aside for a woman that they like, right? Really, within the men's community is where we have the best chance of, in some cases, avoiding those sort of negative qualities and traits from other people, avoiding that sort of negative impact. And so I really feel like a lot of the people that I've talked to online over the past 5, 6, 7 years have really been friends. They're my friends, right? I actually care about their well-being. It's not sufficient to just say, well, if they just disappear, don't worry about what happens to them. That's just not, to me, the outcome that I'm really looking for. That's not going to resolve the questions that I'm asking, I think. So you could make that case that, Dan, just mind your own business, but there are people on here I want to know if they're doing well or not, right? They're my friends. The other part of this is the sort of lack of closure when you do find out that someone passes away. Some of this is really hard to sort of digest because you don't have other people, unless you just flat out put all the information out there or make a video about it. People basically don't have those sort of abilities to like grieve together or talk about the good times or whatever that you had on someone's channel or whatever. And again, I do know there are differences between that and the people that you know in real life, but still, I do think that there are meaningful connections here a lot of the time. And so when you find out, like I found out that Timothy Bladez passed away, like I say, I'll post a video of what happened, but it ended badly. If anybody has questions about what happened, I can show you some other videos, but I will include one link where one of his friends basically made a tribute video toward him. But to not really have people that I could reach out to without doxing him, because he kind of doxed himself within those last few months where he was sort of mentally suffering. But then you have to even question whether that's legit, because if someone's basically having mental problems, then if they put that information out there, should you share it as well? There are so many questions that can go into this, but my sort of tentative, it's not a conclusion, but it's just the way that I look at it right now at least, is you have to take it on a case-by-case basis and just try to do the right thing. And that to me is sort of a shitty protocol, because it doesn't give you any sort of real direction of what's too much information to put out there besides the obvious unnecessary stuff like, their address or something like that. But then what about the people who are left? How do you protect them? How do you reach out to other people when something like this happens without doxing someone? That's essentially the main question of this video. And so, again, guys, I feel like the connections that we make on YouTube can be as real, if not more real, than the people that we encounter in real life that we don't really have anything in common with in some cases. It's just sad to hear these kinds of things, but it's also sad not to know how to share this information like you would if someone close to you in real life or that you cared about in real life passed away, where you could talk to other people that knew them. In this case, it's a lot more difficult. And there have been also cases, guys, of course, where guys have deliberately left YouTube and it was clear why, right? Like the Dark Knight back in the day basically said that he was getting tired of sort of the negative aspects of the men's community. And I mean, it was clear that he just decided to delete his content and move on. Coterie is another example of someone that I know, like I found out what happened to them. They just decided that making content within the men's community wasn't for them anymore. And that's regrettable, but at least there's some sense of closure with that, rather than people just disappearing or never hearing from them again, especially people, like I say, that are basically your friends. It's hard to sort of not have a way to process that and share that information with others if you think you're going to dox them. And then if you don't dox them, why should they believe you in some cases, right? Why should they believe that, oh, Dan's just full of crap, or what source does Dan really have when he's saying this person's passed away? So I want to know what you guys think. Is there such a thing as doxing someone after they've passed away? Is there such a thing as putting information out there that would be doxing someone if they were still alive, but is not really doxing if they've passed on, where is the line, right? And how much does it shift in you guys' opinion? What if someone is sick and they can't post on YouTube anymore, or they've had some sort of really bad thing happen to them? Very similar in this context in terms of asking these questions. I don't know what the answer to that is, other than try to take it on a case-by-case basis. If you know someone that you've been mutual friends with, maybe you can tell them, maybe in a private message somehow. That's kind of what I've tried to do up to this point, but I don't feel good about it. It's a shitty thing to happen to begin with when you find out this type of information, but then to not know how you can share it with others that you know are friends with those people, or with that person that's passed on or has had something really bad happen to them. Again, in Vincent's case, he made it a lot easier, but in a lot of these other cases, it's not so simple. So let me know what you guys think on this issue. What does a dox look like post-mortem? Do the rules change from when someone's alive and you put their information out there? And how much is too much? Let me know what you guys think about these questions, because I really don't feel comfortable with any of the answers that I've come up with, other than just tentatively taking it on a case-by-case basis, like I've said.